Lin Xian, who was wandering in the world of special forces, originally only wanted to make ends meet. But unexpectedly, he awakened the divine level selection system. As long as he made a choice, it would become stronger. When Lin Xian made a choice to join the army with the system, what kind of sparks would he collide with He Chengwang and others in the special forces world? Keywords of the novel. Special forces without pop-up starting from God level selection, Special Forces starting from God Level Selection TXT Complete Collection Download, Special Forces starting from God Level Selection Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Divine Selection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Divine Selection. In front of the gate of Jingguang University, a very beautiful blue Lamborghini pulled up in the wind, making all the vehicles parked in front of the gate pale and attracting the attention of everyone around. Wow, it's so beautiful. Does our school have senior students who drive sports cars to school? How come I don't know? Yeah, I really want to sit in the passenger seat and go for a ride. TSK, we don't even know Lin Xian, the famous second-generation wealthy student in our school. Are you afraid to say it's our Jingguang University? Humph, it's just a playboy relying on some stinky money at home. What's so remarkable about it? In the midst of everyone's discussion, the car door slowly opened and a tall and strong young man got out of the car. He wore a lazy smile, as if nothing was in his heart. Although most female students also listen and learn about Lin Xian's glorious deeds, the attractiveness of Lin Xian to women is exponentially magnified by his tall, handsome, and wealthy qualities. Lin Xian leaned against the car door, as if waiting for someone to come out. If you put some drinks in the car, it may attract a large group of beautiful women to flock to it. After half an hour of ringing, a short-haired beauty with a book, wearing a pair of jeans and a white minimalist T-shirt appeared in front of him. She had no makeup on her face, appearing very clean and fair, with a temperament similar to that of a girl next door. She was not particularly beautiful, but very durable. Anren, wait a moment. Seeing that the other party hadn't discovered him, Lin Xian reached out and blocked their way. Anren frowned and said, Lin Xian, how many times have I told you? Don't disturb me. Anren, can I finish speaking? My parents would like to invite you to my house for dinner, Lin Xian said with a smile. I don't know what you're thinking, do I? Don't use your uncles and aunts as excuses, I will definitely not go back to eat with you, Anren said coldly. Oh, no matter what, we've grown up playing since childhood. You should know what my parents mean, don't you really think about it? Lin Xian said. Impossible. It's because I've grown up that I understand your character. Don't bother me anymore, I won't like you, and I won't either. Anren said word by word. Hee, don't worry, he won't have many opportunities in the future. Anren, get in my car. At this moment, a green military car stopped in front of him, and a tall man in military uniform with a Chinese face got off the car. There was no need to distinguish at all, and Lin Xian immediately understood that the other party was a soldier with a heroic demeanor. Especially sharp eyes, as if they can see through a person's heart. Brother Lei Zhan, thank you for picking me up. Seeing the other person, Anren's face showed a smile. Don't be polite, the deputy commander of the Iron Fist troop asked me to pick you up, Lei Zhan said with a smile. Anren, who is he? Lin Xian was taken aback and asked. He grew up with Enron from a young age, but in his vague memory, he didn't know the man in front of him. Kid, my name is Lei Zhan. I will read your books carefully in the future. Anyway, Anren joined the army a few days ago, so you don't have many chances to see her again, Lei Zhan said playfully. That's right. As for Uncle and the others, when you're not around one day, I'll have time to go see them. Anren glanced at Lin Xian calmly, and she couldn't stand the playboy in front of her. Although her parents used to want her to marry Lin Xian, they basically grew up and attended the same primary school and high school. And his appearance is also considered a perfect match, but Lin Xian's playboy personality is what they dislike the most. Then, despite Lin Xian's ugly expression, Enran boarded the military vehicle. In front of him, the military vehicle carried and ran away. The classmates around who watched the good play began to gloat. "Ha, I'm so satisfied with it. He really thought he could do whatever he wanted with money. I just want to say that Enran is doing a beautiful job and truly deserves to be the most popular senior in our school. Speaking of which, his family is a biopharmaceutical tycoon, and beautiful women play more than us. But that Enran senior is not very beautiful either, and she can't rank in the top 10 at school, right? It's ridiculous, you don't understand the thoughts of wealthy people at all. Rich people have always wanted it more because they can't get it. As the saying goes, a wife is better than a concubine is better than stealing, and stealing is better than not being able to steal. Not being able to steal is exactly Lin Xian's mood." Lin Xian, who was being discussed, gave a faint smile and said, "It's really heartless." In fact, Lin Xian didn't have much fluctuation in his heart. Of course, besides being constantly urged by his family, it was also because Enran never gave him a good face, which also aroused his competitiveness. Now it seems that it's not easy to get the other party's sincerity, especially since Enran actually went to join the army. Now one of them is in the military district and the other is in school. Not to mention continuing to entangle, even if we meet, it will be difficult. Basically, we can already be considered people from two different worlds. There are actually many people who go to college to join the military. One is to respond to the call of the country, and the other is to have experience in the military, which also provides better opportunities for development. Even after retiring, one can continue to complete unfinished studies. So there are many college students joining the military every year. "Did you join the army to avoid me?" Lin Xian muttered to himself. Ding, the divine level selection system awakens. At this moment, Lin Xian suddenly heard a mechanical version of the cold voice in his mind. God level selection system. Upon hearing this, Lin Xian was also stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted and his face showed a look of ecstasy. "System, what ability do you have?" Ding, please let the host start selecting. Option 1. Give up on Enran. As the saying goes, those who are knowledgeable about current affairs are heroes, and sometimes giving up is also a way to achieve success. Reward. Proficient in beginner pharmacy. The first option is obviously to want him to go home and inherit his father's pharmaceutical business, so reward him for being proficient in pharmacy. Option 2, catch up and fight relentlessly, never give up until you achieve your goal. Reward. Beginner level combat mastery. And the second type, Lin Xian, feels that persistent fighting may lead to being beaten, which is why the system rewards those who are proficient in fighting. Option 3, join the military. Today you are indifferent to me, but tomorrow I will make you unable to rise up and become a presence that Enran can look up to. Reward basic physical strength enhancement. Select, countdown to 10 seconds, please host to select as soon as possible. Failure to do so will result in abandonment. 3 choices create 3 futures. It can be said that choosing the wrong step may change Lin Xian's future life. Choose 3. Lin Xian hastily thought for a few seconds before finally gritting his teeth and choosing the third option. The first 2 choices felt too extreme, while the third one had room for reversal, so Lin Xian chose the third one. Buzz. When Lin Xian made his choice, he only felt a huge change in his body, and his originally loose muscles began to become tighter. In his pristine abdomen, several angular muscles appeared, and his body felt full of experience. Surprisingly, his body was changed in an instant. Is this the system? It's very good and powerful, Lin Xian said with a surprised expression. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. I'm going to join the army. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. I'm going to join the army. In the car, Lei Zhan looked at Lin Xian from the rearview mirror and smiled. Enron, I often hear you mention that difficult candy, but now I have finally completely shaken it off. Yes, if it weren't for Lei Zhang, I might have found it a bit difficult. I don't know how to refuse him, Enran said. It's just a small matter, actually I can't stand his behavior. If it weren't for some playboy, he would still look like a talented person. No wonder the deputy commander used to want you to marry him, Lei Zhan said. It's impossible, what I like is my dad's type, said Enron. So, is it soldiers that Enran likes? Lei Zhan's face changed and he asked. That's right, the masculinity and heroism possessed by soldiers are something he will never learn in his lifetime. Even if he wants to marry someone in the future, I still want to marry a soldier, Enran said proudly. As she said, Enron's heart does indeed like soldiers. Influenced by her family background, her father's family is all soldiers and has always admired her father since childhood. So no matter how Lin Xian behaves, her preferences will not change because of this. Because of this, for over 20 years from childhood to adulthood, Enron has never been in a relationship or fallen in love with anyone. If she dislikes it, she feels a bit disgusted with Lin Xian. Currently, there is only one man who has disrupted her mentality and has been remembered by her. Stinky kid, Enran, didn't you say to invite her back to eat? That night, Lin Mu at the dinner table glared at Lin Xian and asked. She has joined the army, so we probably won't have many opportunities to meet again in the future, Lin Xian said truthfully. It's normal for Enran's little girl to join the army. After all, Olden is the deputy commander of the Iron Fist Regiment. My father's name is Lin Jinghao, and he is the CEO of the largest biopharmaceutical development company in Jingguang City. Their family is also considered wealthy in Jingguang City. So, the possibility of us getting married is unlikely, Lin Xian shrugged and said. Husband, why don't we just forget about it? She's not just a good woman in the world, said Lin Mu. As a man, how could you easily give up? I plan to join the army as well. I should be able to meet Enron in the army, Lin Xian said. Son, you're not joking, are you going to join the army? Lin Jinghao said incredulously. Son, take care of yourself. Why are you going crazy? You're studying well at Jingguang University. What kind of soldier are you going to be? Exclaimed Lin Mu. Mom, I just want to go and exercise in the army for a while, Lin Xian whispered. If it weren't for the system's choice, he wouldn't be very willing in his heart. But being a soldier is so hard. You haven't suffered much since you were young, how can you bear it, said Lin Mu with a heartache. That's to say, it's impossible to become a soldier for a woman. Besides, it's already past the recruitment period and there's no chance to become a soldier, Lin Jinghao said with a smile. Dad, can you help me? With our family's strength, it shouldn't be difficult to help me, Lin Xian said. Do you really want to join the army? Lin Jinghao asked again. Lin Xian nodded. Since that's the case, as a dad, there's no way I can do it. I'll contact your uncle and let him make an exception. It shouldn't be difficult, Lin Jinghao said with a smile. Indeed, it is. Children nowadays are afraid of hardship from a young age and cannot bear the life of military districts, so recruiting soldiers has become very difficult. Every year, there are not enough recruits. If we change our son's bad habits in the military, we can also inherit his company well. Lao Lin, what do you want to do? Lin's mother was unhappy and asked her precious son to join the army. What if he couldn't endure hardship? They couldn't see each other for several months, right? Don't worry, I just want him to train in the army for a few months, maybe he can come back in a year and a half, Lin Jinghao said. Do you really just want to go to the military to exercise for a few months? Lin Mu stopped and asked. Of course, I have to let him inherit my company. How could he possibly stay in the military camp for the rest of his life? And with his personality, he's not suitable for military service, right? If it's only a few months, it's really good. Seeing her son's carefree demeanor, Lin's mother felt that sending him to the military for training would probably help him overcome some of his shortcomings. I will write you an introduction letter tomorrow. You can go to the Iron Fist Regiment Military Region of the Southeast Military Region to inquire. However, it has been agreed that if you dare to flee, I will not break your leg, Lin Jinghao said. Lin Xian was also thinking that if he really wanted to join the army, he, who was accustomed to luxurious clothing and food, really didn't know if he could persist. However, thinking of the existence of a system, Lin Xian suddenly became full of confidence. After being strengthened by the system once, there is not much problem in dealing with military training. A week later, at a regimental-level camp in the Southeast Military Region, Lin Xian came to visit Nguqiang with his father's introduction letter. I have informed the leader and someone will come to pick you up soon. Please wait a moment, said the two sentries in front of the door politely. Thank you, big brothers, Lin Xian said. 3 or 4 minutes later, a military jeep drove over and headed towards the military district office with Lin Xian. Along the way, I saw many new recruits undergoing basic training. Thinking of being like them in the future, Lin Xian couldn't help but look bitter. But on the other hand, if I met Enron in the army, it would have been very interesting. She never expected to join the army and become a glorious soldier. I really want to see what kind of expression she will have and whether she will appear very desperate. Thinking of what Enran will show, Lin Xian felt happy in his heart. The car took a few turns and stopped in front of an office building. The communication soldier under the door had been waiting for a long time. When he saw Lin Xian, he immediately took him to Nguqiang's office and reported leaving the office, leaving space for the two to speak alone. Seeing the other party, who was also Enran's father, Lin Xian immediately called out, Uncle En. Lin Xian, do you really want to join our Iron Fist Regiment? Nguqiang, who had clearly read the contents of the envelope, looked at his nephew standing in front of him in surprise. He is very clear about the origin of his nephew. Although the opponent's various physical indicators are estimated to meet the level of recruitment. But a lazy personality is not suitable for military service, right? Nguqiang also doesn't know what kind of heat is going on in his head. Once you join the military, it's not a joke. No matter what, we cannot withdraw. If we become deserters, it will not only be a shame, but also bear corresponding criminal responsibilities. Uncle En, I hope you succeed, Lin Xian confirmed. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Thunder Warfare Obstruction. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 3 Thunder Warfare Obstruction 003 Thunder Battle Obstruction. Nguqiang was carefully scrutinizing Lin Xian. In his opinion, Lin Xian, a wealthy child, could not have stayed in the military district for long. He couldn't take care of himself and could not tolerate the life in the military district. Lin Xian, you should understand that the recruitment time has ended, Nguqiang said as he put down the letter in his hand. You're right. That's really a pity, but it would be great to come to the army today to see Uncle En, Lin Xian said regretfully. Don't be discouraged too early either. Since you want to join the army so much, for the sake of brother Lin's face, I can give you an extra opportunity to serve in the army and contribute to serving the country. Nguqiang said with a smile. It's not good to have privileges, right? Lin Xian whispered. Although he said so, his face was full of excitement. If enlistment fails, the system will recover the reward of option 3. No problem, it's just that our Iron Fist Regiment couldn't recruit enough people, but there are 2 points to clarify. Firstly, you can't be a deserter no matter what. You must definitely be ordered by the instructor. Secondly, you also need to pass the military inspection. Nguqiang waved his hand and said. Physical examination is actually the most important. In addition to visual requirements, military examinations also have high health requirements. Otherwise, if someone with an infectious disease infiltrates, the entire military district may be infected. Chief, you can't agree to him. Just then, the door was pushed open and a soldier with a national face appeared there. Lin Xian turned his head and saw that it was his old acquaintance, Lei Zhan. Lei Zhan, what are you making such a fuss about? And Guqiang frowned and said sternly. Yes. I'm sorry, Chief, but our recruitment date has ended, Lei Zhanji said with a stiff face. Do you think we can't recruit anymore? And Guqiang said. Hey, I didn't mean that. Although he said that, it was clear from Lei Zhan's words that he meant that. He also knew that if he spoke up, he would rashly offend Guqiang. However, Lei Zhan didn't want Lin Xian to infiltrate the army and let him continue to entangle with Ran. After finally joining the army, I thought it would be people from two different worlds, with no longer any intersection. Who knew that the guy in front of me had actually found the army? Alright, I got it. As a military leader, one must definitely set an example. Suddenly, Lei Zhan's conversation was interrupted, and Guqiang felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Since a friend wrote to ask him to take care of his younger generation, it's almost impossible now. In front of Lei Zhan from the Special Operations Brigade, how could he speak up and invite Lin Xian in? Counting thousands, I didn't expect that guy Lei Zhan would just come out and disrupt his plan. Since that's the case, Lei Zhan, help me take him out. Captain An said calmly. Lin Xian was speechless. He had a bumpy journey on his way to join the army, with twists and turns in the ending, making him almost dizzy. Yes, Chief. Lei Zhan's lips showed a happy smile, and he rudely wanted to hold on to Lin Xian, wishing he had kicked him out earlier. I can walk on my own, Lin Xian leaned over and let Lei Zhan catch him off guard. Lao An, fortunately you're here. I don't know where Lao Kong went. By the way, let me tell you something. I recruited 3 very good new recruits from outside and wanted to put them in your Iron Fist troop for training. However, when Lin Xian was about to leave, Guqiang's door was pushed open again, and a smiling tiger appeared. Guqiang rolled his eyes. Why did they all come one after another? At first glance, it turned out to be the Chief of Staff of the Special Operations Brigade, Fan Tianlei. Chief of Staff Fan, what can I trouble you for coming? Guqiang asked. I'm looking for Captain Kong. Oh, you have something to do, why don't I come back later? Fan Tianlei glanced at Lin Xian and the others and said. No need, I have already finished my task. If Chief of Staff Fan wants to find Captain Kong, he must come back tomorrow. He is not in the military district today, Guqiang said. Forget it, it's just a small matter, the same goes for you. I found 3 new recruits from outside and wanted to put them in your military district for training. Fan Tianlei said with a smile. I can agree, but your subordinates won't agree, Guqiang pointed directly at Lei Zhan standing there and said playfully. Fan Tianlei was taken aback for a moment, then squinted his eyes and looked at Lei Zhan. Lei Zhan froze in place, with a bitter smile in his heart. Unexpectedly, things had already stabilized, but halfway through, a Cheng Yaojin suddenly emerged. Lei Zhan, are you trying to target me? Fan Tianlei asked. The new recruits brought in by Chief of Staff Fan Tianlei will naturally be excellent. I'm not thinking about targeting Chief of Staff Fan, I'm just targeting him. Lei Zhan hurriedly explained, he is a wealthy child, an uneducated second-generation wealthy man. Recruiting a military district will only pollute the environment and atmosphere of the military district. What qualifications does he have to be looked upon by the leaders? Enough, Lei Zhan. If I don't speak, do you think I'm easy to bully? Lin Xian, who had originally only planned to watch the show, was very angry when he saw Lei Zhan say, like this. Am I wrong? Lei Zhan said. I see you're just talking nonsense. I see you because you don't like me alone, so you don't want me to enter the military district, Lin Xian said directly. That's right, if an uneducated person can change the army, I think it's better to disband the army as soon as possible, Fan Tianlei nodded and said. Well, the military is a melting pot, but it can change bad habits. Anyone can become a good SEAL through military training, and Guoqiang also said. Is it? Is it? The words of the two leaders made it impossible for Lei Zhan to refute. But as Lei Zhan said, not everyone can qualify for special military moves. Rules are rules, especially in the army, where military orders are like mountains. Fan Tianlei continued. His purpose is only to temporarily accept the 3 people he recruited from the Iron Fist troop. As for Lin Xian, he doesn't do anything about him and doesn't want to interfere. What Chief of Staff Fan Tianlei said is absolutely right, Lei Zhan said happily. I think recruiting me is enough. The 3 people brought by the leader may not be as good as me, Lin Xian said. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Fan Tianlei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Fan Tianlei. Kid, you do meet with the Wind Commander. But you only know how to talk, and the 3 people I brought with me are all good soldiers. After training, they will definitely be able to take on important responsibilities. Fan Tianlei said. Perhaps I will also be very strong in the future, Lin Xian said. If the third option is completed and the system helps, he feels that his abilities are definitely not weak. Just you. Lei Zhan sneered. Lei Zhan, you can't just judge people by their appearance. Since Lin Xian can be admitted to Jingguang University, there must be other outstanding qualities. And Guoqiang began to speak for Lin Xian. Lei Zhan suddenly came to interfere with his conversation and directly refuted his face. And Guoqiang was already very unhappy, and coupled with Lin Xian's father's request, and Guoqiang also wanted to help. It's pointless to talk too much. Since that's the case, why not take them to the new recruits company and let them experience the training content? Let's see what his abilities are, Lei Zhan said disdainfully. In Lei Zhan's opinion, after experiencing the hard training, those wealthy children may have the temperament to give up on their own, there is no need to say much. That's good, Fan Tianlei said happily. For the 3 people he brought, Fan Tianlei had great confidence in his heart. The various basic exercises among new recruits are the places where they can best see their personal abilities. For example, in the entire Iron Fist team, the most elite are the sharpshooters in the 4th company. Only a few new recruits can enter each session. It requires strong shooting talent and excellent performance in all aspects. And every year, the Elite Special Operations Brigade of the Southeast Military Region selects the best few people from the Sharpshooter 4th Company and hires them as members of the Special Forces Special Operations Brigade. And Lei Zhan also came to recruit outstanding talents for the Special Operations Brigade, which is why he appeared in the Iron Fist. Of course, for those with mechanical talent, they may be assigned to mechanized infantry camps, where they have the opportunity to drive tanks, military vehicles, and so on. Every day during the training of new recruits, instructors and class leaders can discover their talents and make reasonable allocations. The group arrived at the new recruits of the Iron Fist Regiment, including the 3 brought by Fan Tianlei, the simple and honestly Erniu, Wang Yanbing with a bit of a thug temperament, and He Chengwang. They could see the new recruits recruited a few days ago starting basic training, with loud slogans and the sound of marching everywhere. When we arrive at a relatively quiet training ground, perhaps during rest time, there are hardly any people training. But obviously it's not a simple project. In front of me is a training ground for obstacle running, with a training ground for throwing hand grenades next door, and a large shooting range at the back. Lei Zhan, let's demonstrate it to them, said Fan Tianlei. Yes, Chief. Lei Zhan was not polite and directly demonstrated to them once. There are 7 sets of obstacles throughout the 400-meter obstacle course. Because we need to pass both sides once, it should be said that we need to pass obstacles 14 times throughout the entire journey. Firstly, there is a 100-meter straight sprint, and Lei Zhan's running speed is not particularly fast. Then he effortlessly climbed over the several over 1-meter-high crossing stakes that were blocking in front, and then the trench. The 3-meter-high wall was almost neatly climbed over. Finally, climbing over the barbed wire, the first round of obstacle running came to an end. Then we need to start from the back and run back, a total of 2 times. Although Lei Zhan seemed to be running at a slow pace, the obstacles in front of him were unable to slow him down, and he ran the entire distance at a constant speed. 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and Guoqiang said as he looked at his watch. It's just average. It seems that he hasn't put in all his strength yet. He's a special forces soldier in our special operations brigade, and if he runs at full strength, he can definitely run for less than 2 minutes, Fan Tianlei said. Chief, we can't even count as new recruits. Shouldn't we be compared to him? He Chengwang asked. He, of course not. As long as you can complete the obstacle run within 5 minutes, you are qualified, Lei Zhan said calmly. In Lei Zhan's view, even if given 10 minutes, Lin Xian couldn't even finish the entire race. He couldn't imagine how Lin Xian could cross a 3-meter-high wall. I feel a bit difficult, Li Erniu whispered. Don't embarrass me. 5 minutes is probably enough, even new recruits don't need 5 minutes, Fan Tianlei said, glaring at Li Erniu. Chief, I'll come first, He Chengwang said with a smile. The obstacle training ground in front of me, because my grandfather is an important figure in the southeast military region, he often comes into contact with it. He Chengwang bent down and rushed out at the beginning of the countdown. The body has strong coordination. Seeing He Chengwang's performance, and Guoqiang was also impressed. He didn't look like a new recruit at all. After finishing the entire race, I found that it only took 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and the result was even better than the average veteran. Wang Yanbing, who watched from the side, was surprised by He Chengwang's performance, but his face also showed some dissatisfaction. The two of them staged a police arrest scene on the street the day before yesterday, chasing each other for dozens of minutes. Wang Yanbing, you go up next, Fan Tianlei said. Go up, go up. Wang Yanbing rolled his sleeves and prepared to step forward. His posture was not very standard, but his victory was due to a sense of recklessness. He is also very agile in his movements, and the obstacles ahead cannot stop him for long. Perhaps it was due to the first time running, so there were several mistakes when crossing the high wall. In the final lap, Wang Yanbing ran the entire race in 3 minutes, which was 40 seconds longer than He Chengwang. On the one hand, I am not familiar with the runway, and on the other hand, my physical condition may be a bit worse than He Chengwang's. Seeing his grades, Wang Yanbing felt very dissatisfied. But in Fan Tianlei's opinion, he was also very satisfied in his heart. On the contrary, he brought the last of the 3, Li Erniu, which made his heart skip a beat. Unexpectedly, an accident occurred and I fell off a 3-meter-high wall. Fortunately, I didn't break my muscles or bones. It took me 5 minutes to finish the entire race, and I barely passed. Kid, you'll be the only one left in the end. Although the military inspection is over, considering that Chief of Staff Fan Tianlei wants to recruit talents for our military region, it's understandable to use his power to make things easier. But if he uses his power to recruit some trash, I don't think anyone will agree, Lei Zhan said sarcastically. In the military, it can indeed be considered that strength is paramount, and only those with strength can earn the respect of others. Humph, I hope you can shut up well later, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Lin Xian, I have a good view of you. Seeing that the thunder battle triggered Lin Xian's dissatisfaction, and Guoqiang instead patted Lin Xian's shoulder as a sign of encouragement. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Depressed Thunder Wars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Depressed Thunder Wars 005. Depressed Thunder Battle. Lin Xiansong loosened his body bones and then rushed out in an instant. With his agile body constantly overcoming obstacles in front of him, Lin Xian's body seemed to rediscover the feeling of rushing. In terms of physical fitness, Lin Xian is not inferior to others, especially after a systematic strengthening of his physical fitness. Now, Lin Xian's physical fitness is not inferior to He Chengwang at all, and even slightly stronger than them. How could that be? Lei Zhan's face looked a bit ugly, and he never expected a wealthy young man to perform so well. He originally thought that Lin Xian could never finish running. When Lin Xian finished running a lap, Fan Tianlei's face looked a bit strange. He looked at his watch and said, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. No way, is it really his first time running? Surprisingly, He Chengwang is fast and his body coordination is perfect. Fan Tianlei's first thought was that I must have misread. The good seedlings he has worked hard to find cannot compare to others. Chief, how many seconds did he run? Lei Zhan asked urgently. Well, not bad, it's 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The score is better than He Chengwang and the three of them. Fan Tianlei breathed a sigh of relief and then put on his watch, his expression not very attractive. Lei Zhan's face was the same. One was the 3 good seedlings he brought with him. In terms of physical condition, he couldn't compare to someone else and felt anxious. The other was that Lei Zhan simply didn't want Lin Xian to be good. Lin Xian's performance made Lei Zhan aware that he might not be able to stop him. Only Nguqiang's face was full of comfort, and Lin Xian could be considered giving him a sigh of relief. It looks like I'm qualified. Chief Lei Zhan, can I ask you to shut up now? Lin Xian wiped the sweat off his head and said with a smile. Lei Zhan didn't speak, although he was very unhappy in his heart. Losing was losing. Senior leader, why are you here? At this moment, a surprised voice came from behind. Fan Tianlei turned his head and saw that it was his former subordinate Gong Jian, currently serving as an instructor in the Iron Fist troop. It's Gong Jian. I was originally planning to bring 3 new recruits to report today, but something unexpected happened, said Fan Tianlei. What can be appreciated by the senior leaders must be extraordinary, Gong Jian smiled. Even if it's a rough jade, it needs to be carefully crafted, Fan Tianlei shook his head and said. He, the old leader happens to be here. Why don't you come and guide the new soldiers in our Iron Fist regiment by the way? I'm planning to gather the new soldiers and also let them feel their guns and hit the targets, Gong Jian said. Shooting. Upon hearing this, Fan Tianlei's eyes lit up. Although Lin Xian dominated the obstacle race test, he did not believe that he would be stronger in shooting than He Chengwang and the others he brought. Although you passed, it's too early for you to be happy now. Let's start the target testing now, said Fan Tianlei. No way, it's not over yet. My dad just wants me to be an ordinary active soldier, it's like screening special forces, Lin Xian exclaimed in dissatisfaction. Nguqiang also had a strange expression on his face, but he also knew that Fan Tianlei was the chief of staff of the Special Operations Brigade, so there was nothing wrong with the style of the Special Operations Brigade. Anyone can practice obstacle running physical fitness tests, but soldiers don't know how to hit targets, Fan Tianlei said. But in fact, Fan Tianlei, who comes from the Special Operations Brigade, only wants to screen Special Forces soldiers. The 3 people he recruited felt they were all good candidates to become Special Forces soldiers. The talent of shooting is actually what Fan Tianlei values the most. Besides being overwhelmed by Lin Xuanxiang, Fan Tianlei also wants to find a place to prove the ability of the 3 new recruits he brought. Gong Jian, it's okay to practice shooting with 3 more of them, isn't it? Fan Tianlei asked. The old leader is the final say, but they didn't accept the knowledge of guns and handed them the guns. I'm afraid something might happen, Gong Jian said carefully. You should know that live ammunition is used for shooting, and if something unexpected happens, it is an irreparable problem. I can understand your feelings, but after all, they all come this way. So I made it clear to them in advance that without orders, fingers cannot be placed on the trigger, and the muzzle cannot be aimed at people. Everything is based on safety. Whoever dares to violate a rule will be punished severely, without mercy. Do you understand? Fan Tianlei shouted loudly to Lin Xian and the others. Yes, it is. He Chengwang and his companions nodded excitedly. The charm of firearms is irresistible to most boys, as they are naturally more fond of firearms. It's really exciting for them to have the opportunity to touch the real gun now. Including Lin Xian, he also began to look forward to the moment when he touched the real gun. Start firing now. Gong Jian led his men to start firing guns, and Lei Zhan also began to help. The firearms to practice are the very traditional Type 95 rifle. Although the Willy is average, the Type 95 rifle is very stable and is a very good weapon. He Chengwang, Wang Yanbing, and Li Erniu are listed. They were the three new recruits that Fan Tianlei had always wanted to focus on training, so he personally brought a rifle to them and said, "Take the gun." Yes. He Chengwang and Wang Yanbing came to Fan Tianlei with guns in their arms, feeling extremely excited. Everyone has 10 bullets, let's see who hit the most rings. Understanding that this is your first time touching a gun, 50 rings is the qualification line. If you can't hit 50 rings, get out of here. Fan Tianlei said to He Chengwang and the others. Isn't it just 50 rings? He Chengwang chuckled lightly, completely indifferent. He Chengwang has a strong shooting talent since childhood, and due to his family background, he often comes into contact with shooting. If I were to shoot a target, I would not lose to anyone else. Wang Yanbing's face was also full of confidence. He had a first-class air gun, so after familiarizing himself with the gun in his hand, he thought it was not difficult. On the other hand, it was Lin Xian. When the guns were being distributed, Lei Zhan suddenly sneered and handed him the Type 95 rifle, which suddenly scattered into a pile of parts. Haha! The other recruits saw this and each one burst out laughing. Nguqiang's face looked a bit unattractive. He thought Lei Zhan was too narrow-minded and targeted Lin Xian everywhere. How did Lin Xian provoke him? Sorry, the gun is loose, Lei Zhan said calmly. I'll trade with you, said He Chengwang, who couldn't stand Lei Zhan. That's right, although we all lost to him in the obstacle race, it's really despicable of you as a commander to target a new recruit, Wang Yanbing sneered. On the contrary, it was Fan Tianlei who looked like he was watching a good show. Instantly dismantling firearms is also a skill in lightning warfare. But for those who are not familiar with firearms, it is not particularly difficult to assemble rifles that are scattered into parts. If it were He Chengwang, it shouldn't be difficult for him. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Second Divine Selection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Second Divine Selection. Originally, Lei Zhan thought he couldn't stop Lin Xian, but who knew that the road was turning. Although he thought it was difficult for Lin Xian, who had never touched a gun, to hit 50 rings, Lei Zhan didn't want to give him any chance to challenge him. Ding, trigger divine level selection. Choose one, plead with He Chengwang for help, make a shrunken turtle, reward. A carbon steel bulletproof vest. Then, the carbon steel bulletproof vest can effectively protect the body from harm, making it a better shrunken turtle. Option 2, smash the parts of the Type 95 rifle onto the face of Thunder Fighter to reward beginner combat skills. Choose 3, assemble the Type 95 rifle yourself, and reward intermediate firearms mastery. I choose 3. Lin Xian doesn't want to be a shrunken turtle. Besides, what's the use of giving him a bulletproof vest now? But he also doesn't want to directly engage in battle with Thunder. Although he really wants to master fighting, he can't win Thunder now. This includes rewarding beginner combat skills and not being an opponent of experienced veterans. Ding, choose to execute. Congratulations to the host for obtaining intermediate proficiency in firearms. Later, Lin Xian felt an inexplicable understanding in his heart. Taking a glance at the parts of the Type 95 rifle lying on the ground, the principle and structure of the Type 95 rifle came to mind, and everything about it was instantly understood. No need, I'll do it myself. How could he underestimate it? Lin Xian said. Under the gaze of Fan Tianlei and his companions, Lin Xian surprisingly began to assemble a clump of scattered parts on the ground with both hands. Although not very skilled, he successfully restored the Type 95 rifle. How could it be? Lei Zhan's face was full of disbelief. Although he was a wealthy young man and probably had never touched his gun, he was able to restore his intentionally dismantled Type 95 rifle. After Lin Xian's sharp movements, Fan Tianlei also looked at him directly. It seems that he doesn't have a piece of jade that has been developed. I have told you many times about this note, and I don't think I need to reiterate it anymore. You are all ready, right? Gong Jian said. Ready, all the new recruits shouted loudly. Very good, everyone is ready now and we will start shooting practice immediately, Gong Jian said with a smile. Everyone fell down, and He Chengwang and the others were also infected by the atmosphere. They lay on the ground and set up Type 95 assault rifles. And 400 meters away, there stands a humanoid target. Lying there, everyone slowly adjusted the position of the muzzle, their eyes fixed on the scope. All of them, prepare to shoot. Upon hearing Gong Jian's command, everyone dared to open the safety and then bent down to aim at the target. When their index finger lightly pressed down, sweat welled up on the foreheads of many new recruits, making them extremely nervous. Bang! After everyone's first round of shooting is completed, start reporting results. But after all, they are new recruits and their grades are generally poor, especially in the eyes of Fan Tianlei. Some hit a loop, while others couldn't hit the target. The results of 2 of them caught Gong Jian's attention. Who hit the 19th target? Surprisingly, someone hit 10 rings during the first shot. Gong Jian exclaimed in surprise. Report, it's me, He Chengwang raised his hand and said. A group of new recruits were stunned for a moment, and then a surprised expression appeared on their faces. It was amazing that someone had hit 10 rings. So it was brought by the leader, no wonder. Gong Jian suddenly realized that being noticed by the leader Fan Tianlei was definitely not a bad thing. Instructor, the score on the 20th is also good, hitting the 9th ring, said the old black squad leader of the new recruits company. Lao He, who is the 20th? Gong Jian asked. It's me, Wang Yanbing said. It's just that Wang Yanbing's face is not very happy, it seems to be because he didn't hit the 10th ring. They both have extremely strong shooting talents, Fan Tianlei smiled confidently. Fan Tianlei was very satisfied with the shooting results of the 2, and He Chengwang and the others finally gave him a sigh of relief. Gong Jian, how many rings did he hit on the 22nd? Lei Zhan pointed at Lin Xian and asked. Let me take a look. Gong Jian picked up his glasses and said, the grades are also good, I hit 8 rings. What, 8 rings? Lei Zhan was stunned. He had always looked down on Lin Xian, but he didn't expect his performance to be unexpected time and time again. Although he can't compare to He Chengwang, it seems that his performance is also good, and after some training, he should also be a good seedling. Fan Tianlei smiled and said. Yes, indeed, one cannot judge by appearance, and Guoqiang praised. Lin Xian, who is proficient in firearms, although it is his first time holding a gun, he is familiar with the Type 95 rifle in his hand and has no sense of unfamiliarity. But because of the first shooting, only 8 rings were scored. Shooting not only requires familiarity with firearms, but also a certain level of shooting talent. The group once again looked towards the shooting range and now began the second round of shooting. However, to the shock of the new recruits and officers present, He Chengwang and Wang Yanbing's performance was stunning, hitting the bullseye of 10 rings one after another. And Lin Xian's second hit also hit the 7.5 ring position. After 10 bullets were fired, He Chengwang ranked first, with a total of 100 rounds. The gun hit the target, and Wang Yanbing closely followed, with 92 rounds, slightly worse than He Chengwang's score. The results of the two shocked everyone. Lin Xian's performance is not very outstanding, but he is much stronger than the new recruits present, with a total of 84 rings, far exceeding the 50-ring qualification line set by Fan Tianlei. Is the average score 8 points? Lin Xian felt like he was aiming for the bullseye, but missed a lot each time. He understood that his understanding of shooting was too limited, and the accuracy of shooting was influenced by many factors, such as wind speed and the deviation angle of bullets. As a beginner, Lin Xian is actually unable to compete with He Chengwang for the time being. Although he achieved good results, Fan Tianlei also saw Lin Xian's background and had a rough understanding of him. However, this is Lin Xian's first time touching a gun, and with his proficiency in firearms rewarded by the system, he was able to hit over 80 rings, which is actually an extraordinary performance. Finally, there was Li Erniu, whose score was almost unqualified, with only 52 hits from 10 bullets. Perhaps his shooting talent is not very strong, but of course, there is also the reason why he started shooting for the first time, which is not comparable to He Chengwang and the two of them. Lei Zhan, don't you have any objections now? And Guqiang looked at Lei Zhan and asked. Chief, we specially recruited them to join the army. I don't mind, Lei Zhan said bitterly. No one could have imagined that Lin Xian could overcome all the difficulties he faced, perhaps because he really underestimated the other party. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Motivation of Thunder Wars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Motivation of Thunder Wars. Lei Zhan, I'm sorry to disappoint you. My shooting performance seems to be good, exceeding your expectations, right? Lin Xian sneered without hesitation. Lei Zhan didn't speak, but snatched the Type 95 rifle from Lin Xian's hand. Lei Zhan didn't even look, pulled the trigger and began a dense round of strafing. He Chengwang and his team were shocked to find that each bullet had hit the target 10 times on the opposite side. But every bullet, every shot accurately hits the bullseye. After the bullets were fired, the abnormal score of 200 rings was achieved, and 20 precise shots were fired from the strafing, all hitting the target's 10-ring position. The performance of Lei Zhan made He Chengwang and the others look at each other with shock on their faces, feeling the power and terror of Lei Zhan. Although He Chengwang can achieve a score of 100 rings, the accuracy is perfect. But that was a focused state of aiming, while lightning warfare was a direct and non-stop strafing, with both sides making a decisive decision. If He Chengwang were to fight like thunder, he wouldn't be able to do it. It's just hitting the target is not that big of a deal. Shooting is just the foundation of new recruit training. If you're not convinced, try to climb up. I'll be waiting for you in the Special Operations Brigade. After finishing, Lei Zhan turned around and left. So impressive, is this the true strength of the Special Forces? Exclaimed He Chengwang. Wang Yanbing's eyes were like torches, and his spirit felt as excited as chicken blood. You guys, do you know that there are people outside of us? Shooting a fixed target is too easy, and it's like a child's play for Special Forces, Fan Tianlei said with a smile. Fan Tianlei was also surprised that the Thunder battle in the Special Operations Brigade would take action. However, Lei Zhan was able to intimidate them and prevent them from becoming complacent, which is not bad, so Fan Tianlei did not stop them. I'll trample on him sooner or later, Lin Xian snorted coldly. How could I possibly forget about his harassment today? Although Thunder War is indeed very strong, as long as the conditions for activating the God-level option are met, regardless of the choice made, Lin Xian can become stronger, and his potential can grow infinitely. Of course, once you choose a choice, it's actually choosing your own life trajectory. Each choice is quite important, and rewards are also very important. Kid, you're not even a new recruit now. It's too early to say that. It's not that easy to get into the Special Operations Brigade. Fan Tianlei glanced at Lin Xian and said. I just passed the assessment, didn't I? Lin Xian said in surprise. What, you're a leader, your words are so unreliable. Even though you promised, why did you suddenly back out? Lin Xian was speechless, but he didn't continue to stir and pester. If none of this can enter, Lin Xian has no choice. After seeing Lin Xian leave, Gong Jian asked strangely, Chief of Staff, why don't you just recruit that kid in? With his talent, it would be a pity if he gave up. If he were to train in a new recruit company, he would feel like he would become a good candidate. It is undeniable that his talent is indeed good, with the potential to become an elite. However, we cannot recruit him yet, Fan Tianlei smiled. Gong Jian asked, why, should we continue to beat him? Fool, joining the military requires passing a medical examination and political review first. You can contact the Jingguang University where he studied and transfer his hometown to the Iron Fist Troop, Fan Tianlei ordered. If Fan Tianlei wants to say that he is not tempted by such a good seedling, it is definitely false. From physical fitness and shooting tests, it can be seen that his potential is not much inferior to that of Wang Yanbing. And inspired by lightning warfare, I will strive towards lightning warfare in the Special Operations Brigade in the future. And Guoqiang was also very pleased in his heart. It must be said that Lin Xian's performance impressed him and completely overturned the image of a playboy in his previous heart. When Lin Xian returned home, he found his mother helping to pack his luggage, including the clothes he likes to wear on a daily basis. Mom, what are you doing? Lin Xian asked. Aren't you preparing to join the army? I want to help you pack your luggage so that you don't get flustered, Lin Mu said without looking back. Don't be so busy, it's not even confirmed yet, Lin Xian said. Who said you're not sure? Uncle An just called me and the army agreed to your enlistment. The notice will be delivered tomorrow and you will be asked to report to the army the day after tomorrow with the notice. Lin Jinghao said. Really? Lin Xian was taken aback for a moment, and they were also surprised. Why didn't they just tell him directly in person just now, but it took him a long time to hang out before calling his dad to report. Uncle An can't deceive me. Besides, with him around, that little thing is not easy. But what's surprising is that Uncle An actually said a lot of good things to you in front of me, Lin Jinghao said. That's because I performed well in the military district today, so Uncle An looked at me differently, Lin Xian said. Come on, I don't know about you yet. If you don't cause trouble for me, I am already grateful. Tomorrow, you will go to school immediately to handle the relevant procedures and prepare to report to the military district. Lin Jinghao laughed and cursed. Although he said so, it was evident that he was in a good mood. Who wouldn't want his son to give him a face and be praised by others? Live a good life in the military district, don't starve yourself. I'll prepare more snacks for you, and take them out to eat when you're hungry, Lin's mother nagged. Mom, you don't have to prepare so much for me. In the army, you have everything, just take 2 sets of clothes and so on. Lin Xian hurriedly said. That's right. The military has strict discipline and no one is allowed to bring anything in randomly. Once he enters the military, he is no longer the eldest young master in the family, but lives like an ordinary person, Lin Jinghao said. What if I can't get used to the army? Lin Mu said anxiously. She knows that Lin Xian is very picky about food. If it's not delicious, he won't even take a bite. Hee, if you're really hungry, even if you put a bowl of rice in front of you, you have to eat it. Military food is not good, but you won't starve him. If you can't eat it, you'll suffer, Lin Jinghao said. Mom. Don't worry, your son is already in his 20s and will take good care of himself in the army, Lin Xian hurriedly said. The system's first choice was finally completed, and Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. If he fails to enlist and the system retrieves the reward, Lin Xian will be very frustrated. After strengthening my physical fitness once, I felt that my body was different from before, much stronger than before. If we go back to the past, Lin Xian feels very uncomfortable. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. An Ran feels guilty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. An Ran feels guilty. The next day, Lin Xian returned to Jingguang University with the notice in hand. Jingguang University is the best university in Donghai City. Although there are many preferential policies for college students to join the military. For example, tuition fees can be reduced, and if you retire, you can still continue to complete your studies and retain your college student status. Despite the favorable conditions for becoming a soldier, the recruitment work in the military still has a long way to go. Nowadays, college students cannot endure so much hardship, and there are very few college students who actively participate in military service. Every year of military service, there are not enough recruits. But when Lin Xian arrived at the Academic Affairs office, he unexpectedly found a person who was also handling the procedures for suspension. It's you, Anren. So you're also coming to handle the suspension procedures? Lin Xian said in surprise. Lin Xian, please explain to me clearly, what does it mean? Seeing Lin Xian, An Ran frowned, but upon hearing his words, she suddenly had a bad feeling in her heart. He, Anren classmate, he is just like you. He was hired by the Southeast Military Region and became a glorious soldier. The military also transferred his student status from the school, and he will leave the school tomorrow to join the military. The Academic Affairs Director smiled and said. The Dean of Academic Affairs was delighted to be able to enlist Lin Xian, who was already difficult to manage. The most important thing is that they serve in the military, which is also full of glory for the school. I don't know. An Ran suddenly felt a whirlwind and finally thought he was far away from Lin Xian, but he followed her to the military district. How could it be? Did you make a mistake? Isn't the recruitment period over? An Ran refused. It's over. But thanks to Uncle N's help, I was able to recruit into the army. Enron, I will also ask for more guidance in the army in the future. Lin Xian chuckled. I used to ask my dad for help. You really know how to take advantage of loopholes. An Ran's face didn't look very good, and she prayed in her heart, hoping that Lin Xian wouldn't be in the same company as her. Although they are currently in the same military district, it is also difficult to meet different companies. But what surprised Enron the most was why his father recruited a playboy into the army. I think you're asking for trouble on your own. By the way, I'll warn you that the military is not a school, not a place for you to play around. If you violate military discipline, no one can save you. An Ran snorted coldly. With Lin Xian's temperament, how could he persist in a disciplined army? Thank you for Enron's concern, but with my abilities, it's easy to establish myself in the military district. Enron, I realize you underestimate me too much, Lin Xian said nonchalantly. That's right, what do you have that I can look up to? An Ran said. Cut, let's wait and see. After speaking, Lin Xian ignored Anren in front of him and began to ask the teaching director to help handle the suspension procedures. An Ran was taken aback for a moment, as if feeling that Lin Xian in front of her was a bit different from before. Hello, I'm An Guoqiang. Captain An, who heard the phone ring from a distance, returned to the office and picked up the phone. Dad, it's me, said the girl's voice over the phone. Enron, why did you call me today? Is something happening at home? After learning that it was his daughter who called him, An Guoqiang's tone began to ease. Facing family members and facing outsiders are certainly two different attitudes. There's nothing going on at home. Actually, Dad, I just wanted to ask you about something. An Ran across from me stuttered for a while. And as she had just completed the procedures from school and returned, of course, she had a grudge against Lin Xian for being able to join the army, so she called to complain to her father, Dad, how could you agree to let that guy Lin Xian join the army? You're not unaware of his situation, he's just a playboy, probably trying to keep pestering me. Daughter, I don't want to abuse my power either. Lei Zhan also helped to dissuade me at that time, but he passed the assessment set by the Special Operations Brigade based on his own abilities. He was liked by the Chief of Staff of the Special Operations Brigade, so he stayed. Moreover, we can't just judge people by their appearance. Although he behaved stubbornly, who was never young. I see, he does have the talent to join the military, and Guoqiang said with a smile. Impossible, don't I know his skills yet? And Ran sneered. If it were anyone else, and Ran might believe it, but since we grew up almost from a young age, how could we not understand Lin Xian? How could Lin Xian be impressed by Chief Fan Tianlei and deliberately stay behind? That may just be on the surface. After entering the military and breaking away from the bad habits of being a playboy, he will be a good young man again. Enron, you two grew up together from a young age and feel that you are also quite compatible. And Guoqiang actually began to consider Enron's marriage. Otherwise, in the military region, although there are many good men, it is not a place to talk about love, although I heard before that Lin Xian was almost human. In the melting pot of the army, there is hope to correct any bad habits. In addition, he has always had a good relationship with Lin Jinghao, and the Lin family is particularly wealthy, making them a good marriage partner. If Enran marries the Lin family, there is no need to worry about suffering for a lifetime. That's strange, Dad. Don't worry. I've always disliked him since I was young, how could I possibly marry him? Now I've enlisted in the military just to annoy me. I really don't know what his mind is thinking, Enran said. It shows that our family has a great charm in Enron. I'm really fascinated by Lin Xian, and Guoqiang burst out laughing, admiring Lin Xian's behavior. The reason for joining the military is actually to get close to the woman you like, deliberately entering the military, being able to bravely take action and take the first step, which is not comparable to ordinary people. I don't want it. Dad, you wouldn't arrange to join the same platoon as me, would you? Enran hurriedly asked. How could it be? He entered our Iron Fist Regiment's new recruits company for training, and Chief of Staff Fan Tianlei of the Special Operations Brigade paid close attention to him. I don't want to let him go, Guoqiang said. That's good, if I have to see him all day in the army, I want to just go back and forget about it. Dad, I'm fine, I'll hang up the phone first, Enran breathed a sigh of relief. Since he's in Dad's Iron Fist team, there's hardly much chance of the two meeting. In school, it's just that. I've been used to it for over a decade since I was young. I joined the army for my own dreams and to stay away from Lin Xian. If we also have to meet every day in the army, Enron can only say that the enemy's path is narrow, and the first thing he thinks of is to be transferred, damn it. Enron smiled bitterly as he thought that Lin Xian would also join the army. If he can put that perseverance into his studies, why not worry about success? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. New Recruits Report. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 New Recruits Report. On the third day, Lin Xian came to the Iron Fist troop with some simple luggage to report. But unexpectedly, except for not being able to bring mobile phones, all other prepared daily necessities were confiscated, and nothing was allowed to be brought into the army. The old black squad leader of the new recruits first led him to receive military uniforms and other daily supplies, and then took him to the allocated collective dormitory, which was a crowded dormitory for a total of 8 people. Not to mention, compared to home, even the university dormitory is much worse. At least the university has air conditioning and a computer to play with. And the military dormitory doesn't have much to ask for, only folded blankets and mats. Because Lin Xian was considered a transfer student, he was unable to start training with the army immediately. He had to wait until today's training ended before officially starting the next day. On the first day, the old black squad leader who led the new recruits mainly familiarized him with the environment within the army and helped him understand the discipline within the army. "Mr. Black, where are the three of them, He Qingguang?" Lin Xian asked curiously. They started formal training as early as yesterday. You were the slowest one to arrive, reporting a week later than the new recruits. I hope you can keep up with their new recruits' training, said the old blackhead without returning. Because none of them need to go through any procedures, as long as they pass the physical examination, there are no special obstacles. Unlike Lin Xian, the suspension procedures are very complicated. They were several years younger than Lin Xian, and He Chengwang gave up the university he applied for to join the army. Li Erniu and Wang Yanbing had already stopped studying, and their cultural level was a bit low, so the procedures were very simple. Lin Xian observed outside for half a day, and from 2 p.m. until 4 or 5 p.m., he felt that the training for new recruits was not very difficult, similar to university military training, and he didn't take it seriously. However, he didn't know that the training content for new recruits had just begun. The current training is only the foundation of the foundation, and the main training content is still focused on standing in a military posture. However, after Lin Xian changed into his military uniform, he also breathed a sigh of relief, and his first choice was considered completed. I have strengthened my physical fitness once. Looking at the training of the new recruits just now, it shouldn't be difficult to cope with the subsequent training. Combined with my understanding of firearms, it's completely enough to make a living in the military. But compared to Lei Zhan, it feels like there is still a lot of difference in the two abilities that are only rewarded by the system, and neither aspect can be stronger than him. But relying on two abilities to defeat Thunder War feels like it's far from enough. Besides waiting for the system to activate the God level option and receive rewards, I also need to work harder in the army. I have to learn some useful skills. Although the system itself is also a type of its own strength, if I don't work hard on it all the time, I won't be able to become a great tool. Lin Xian thought to himself. Perhaps I joined the army in the past due to the choice of the system and the presence of Enron, but a few days ago, the difficulties caused by the Thunder War actually stimulated Lin Xian's internal fighting spirit. No matter what, he has the help of the system. If it's not as good as Thunder War, it's really better to just hit him dead. At this time, Fan Tianlei, the chief of staff of the Special Operations Brigade, in Gong Jian's office, seemed to be very free, watching the training of the recruits from the window. He Chengwang personally brought the three of them, so Fan Tianlei highly values them. Chief, don't worry, I will train them well. You really don't have to come and observe every day, Gong Jian said in silence. Gong Jian, what do you know? I just want to confirm if Lin Xian will come. Now that I see him reporting, I feel relieved, Fan Tianlei said with a smile. For Lin Xian, after understanding his background, Fan Tianlei also felt a headache. Although the family background is certainly innocent, the background is complex and completely different from He Chengwang and the other three. Lin Xian comes from a wealthy family, and it is almost impossible for him to consider becoming a soldier as his dream and career. He is used to too many tricks and may find it difficult to control. Even for He Chengwang and the others, their consciousness is still not enough, and they need to be hammered and educated. So Gong Jian, your responsibility is very heavy. Apart from the three people I brought, we need to focus on cultivating them, and Lin Xian cannot be careless at all. He is a wealthy young man who may not be able to withstand the strict discipline of the army in the early stages. You need to guide him appropriately. In addition, ideological and political education should not be neglected, and his potential must be fully tapped. The first shooting can achieve a score of over 80 rings, which is very good. Compared to the Wang Yanbing I brought, if trained, it can definitely be put to great use. It has been a long time since the Special Operations Brigade injected excellent fresh blood. If they were trained for a period of time, they should be able to be brought to the Special Operations Brigade for further training. But if the military region finally cultivates Lin Xian into an excellent talent, but leaves the military 2 years later and goes back to work at his home company, no one is willing to do so. That's why they want to do everything possible to keep the excellent talent in the military for development. As for those without any abilities, retirement is also necessary. My senior leader, I know what you're saying. Don't worry, since you've arrived at our Iron Fist troop, even the tiger has to squat for me and the dragon has to be coiled for me. Gong Jian said confidently. He is an old fogey. He was once Fan Tianlei's subordinate. He came from the elite Special Operations Brigade and was once an excellent Special Operations soldier. And in addition, the army gave him the opportunity to study abroad for a year or two. Gong Jian, who has a rich resume and outstanding abilities, could not withstand a few new recruits. If it weren't for verifying the knowledge learned abroad, Gong Jian wouldn't have worked as a mere instructor in the Iron Fist troop. Of course, Fan Tianlei believed in Gong Jian's ability. He smiled and said, "Hee, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have put them in the Iron Fist team. Alright, I don't have time every day. When I have time, I'll come see them again. Senior leader, please walk slowly." Gong Jian wiped the sweat off his head as he finally saw off Fan Tianlei. Speaking of which, Fan Tianlei comes to the Iron Fist troop all day to observe, making him Alexander. Aren't he just a few new recruits? What's worth paying attention to? If you have the ability, you will definitely stand out slowly without any special care. Gong Jian actually wanted to double their training workload and take good care of them according to Fan Tianlei's words. In the end, I stayed in the office all day. It seemed that Gong Jian was about to revise his training plan, and a gloomy smile appeared on his face. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Training begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Training begins. On the other hand, the special training for Lin Xian's new recruits finally began the next day. Early in the morning, before dawn, Lin Xian was awakened by the loud sound of the horn. You should know that sleeping in a strange room at night, listening to the loud snoring of Li Erniu sleeping next door, Lin Xian couldn't sleep at all night. So when gathering, Lin Xian stared at two big panda eyes. Stand at attention. Align to the right, look forward, take a moment to rest, and report the number in each row. Old Black began to organize his team ahead, counting the number of people. Seeing that Lin Xian's first day of training arrived on time, Lao He nodded in satisfaction. Report to the instructor, the number of new recruits in the company should be 88, but it has actually been 88. Please instruct. Old Black ran to Gong Jian and reported. Before starting the training, let me introduce the new recruits who just came to report yesterday. Lin Xian, come out and introduce himself to everyone, and also talk about his experience in the military district, Gong Jian said with a smile. Hello everyone, my name is Lin Xian and I'm a sophomore from Jingguang University. Although I'm probably older than you and you guys, you came earlier than me, so you need to take care of me more in the future. As for the first day of living in the military district, I felt terrible. The food was not very delicious, and I couldn't sleep well. Their snoring was too loud. Especially Li Erniu next door, who snored like thunder. Lin Xian complained. Haha. As soon as Lin Xian finished speaking, it immediately caused the new recruits to burst into laughter, and Li Erniu also scratched his head with embarrassment. Don't worry, you will definitely sleep soundly tonight, Old Black chuckled. Alright, let's start training now. Let's do a 5-kilometer off-road load run and let them all keep up with me, Gong Jian said loudly. Yes. Led by the Old Black squad leader, the new recruits were unable to have breakfast and had to start a day of training. I thought the new recruit training would be as easy as yesterday, but Lin Xian tragically realized that he was wrong. On the first morning, he had to practice with a heavy load. Last night he didn't have enough to eat, and now he hasn't had breakfast. He's so hungry that he doesn't have any strength. Take out your backpacks, fill me with stones, don't give me a short wait. As a soldier, the first rule of survival is that the more you train, the more you can survive on the battlefield. The old black squad leader shouted loudly at the new soldiers with a loudspeaker, scanning every new soldier's egg on the scene. Hey hey. Ernyo, it's not like I'm talking about you, can't you just dress up less? Lin Xian felt a bit tired, and his backpack was all packed with stones by the honest Ernyo. At that moment, the feeling should not be too sour, as it weighed more than 20 pounds. Ernyo smiled foolishly and said, "The old black squad leader has asked me to take care of you more. Now it's your turn to help me install more stones, try to install more for me. Are you a fool?" Lin Xian really wanted to curse at him a few times, then had to stand up and pick up several large stones on the ground and load them into Ernyo's backpack. Since he wanted to be serious, Lin Xian specifically picked the heaviest weight to put on for him. Collection. Quick. The old black squad leader shouted ahead, and dozens of new recruits quickly lined up and stood in line. Attention everyone, align front and back. Align to the right and look forward. After adjusting the team, the old black squad leader reached out and pointed to the mountain 2 or 3 kilometers away from him, shouting loudly, "Target, that 500-meter mountain, let's go. Go ahead." A group of new recruits shouted loudly, cheering themselves on and charging out. Wang Yanbing and He Chengwang took the lead and rushed to the front of the team, completely fighting against each other. Li Erniu panted heavily and fell to the back. Although honest and straightforward, Li Erniu's physical fitness is much worse than He Chengwang and others. As for Lin Xian, he was a bit unaccustomed to the high-difficulty training at the beginning, and then ran around eagerly afterwards, without wanting to waste any energy. Lin Xian was originally the worst, but fortunately his physical strength was strengthened once, so he was able to keep up with the team. If he hadn't eaten breakfast before and had to run 3 or 4 kilometers with a backpack full of stones early in the morning, it would have killed him. Especially the mountain road ahead is very steep, with uneven stones on the road. After running a distance, I didn't feel good anymore. The key is that the backpack behind me is filled with stones. But weight-bearing exercises, theoretically speaking, are not the content of new recruit training, right? Lin Xian gritted his teeth and ran for a kilometer. His body was covered in sweat, and his face turned red as he gasped for breath. He glanced at He Chengwang and the others in front of him, who were running so fast. Where did they come from for their strength? I have strengthened my physique once, and I don't feel that much strength in my body. Hey, new here, hurry up and run. The last one doesn't have breakfast, do you want to go hungry? Lao He couldn't help but shout as he looked at Lin Xian hesitating behind him. Damn it, wait for me. Lin Xian packed his backpack and ran forward with all his strength. Physical energy is being depleted, and strength is being lost. When he couldn't help it anymore, old black behind him cursed and suddenly burst out with strength from somewhere. After running nearly 2 kilometers, there is a final slope before the finish line. Feeling the weight on his back and then looking at the slope, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and climbed up. Stepping on a stone with my body, my feet hurt from the impact. After running for a few kilometers, I felt like my whole body was about to fall apart, a feeling that I had never experienced in over a decade. But compared to others, Lin Xian's performance is already quite good. Moreover, it seemed that Lin Xian was accustomed to carrying heavy loads. He began to keep up with the troops one by one, and in the end, he ran to the forefront with his strong physical strength. Seeing Lin Xian's performance, the old black squad leader was surprised. No wonder the instructor asked him to take extra care of Lin Xian and the 4 of them, and his performance was indeed excellent. We are pests, we are pests. The righteous old squad leader must eliminate pests, eliminate them, eliminate them. What are you? Old Black asked loudly as he ran. Pests, pests. We are pests, sing again. We are pests, we are pests. The old squad leader of justice, the old squad leader of justice, must eliminate pests, eliminate them, eliminate them. The resounding singing echoes incessantly in the deep mountains and forests of the early morning. End of this chapter.